The wind cut hard across the Wyoming prairie that morning, dragging a curtain of dust and frost over the ground like a warning. It was the kind of cold that burned through denim and got into your bones before breakfast. But Samuel Hayes had seen worse and survived it. War, loss, drought. He didn't flinch when the wind screamed like a ghost. He just pulled his coat tighter, tipped his hat, and kept walking. He was checking fence line like he always did on Sundays. No help, no hurry, just him, his old quarter-horse Boone, and a thermos of coffee gone lukewarm an hour ago. It was about 2 mile north of the house, past the cedar break, that he saw something strange. At first, it looked like just a shape dark against the pale wood of the boundary post. A bundle of something. Maybe a feed sack someone tossed. Maybe a coyote carcass. But as he rode closer, Boone stopped. Flat stopped. Ears pinned, nostrils flaring. Sam narrowed his eyes. It was a child tied to the fence with rough rope like livestock. Arms stretched above his head, wrists swollen and bleeding where the cords bit in, knees sagging, head slumped. A torn shirt hung loose around a thin, bruised body, and bare feet clung to the frozen dirt. Sam dismounted without a word. The boy flinched when he touched him, just a tremor. He was barely conscious. His lip was split, cheek swollen. There were old bruises over new ones, the kind of damage that doesn't happen all at once. It builds up over years. Sam took out his knife and cut the rope. The boy sagged into his arms like a rag stuffed with broken glass. Sam lifted him gently. The boy was light, terrifyingly light. His ribs stuck out under his shirt like the slats of a sun-bleached fence. When Sam carried him to the saddle, the boy muttered something. He had to lean close to hear it. "Don't send me back, please." The ride home was slow. Sam wrapped the boy in his duster and held him close in the saddle. Boone moved steady. The boy faded in and out of sleep. Mostly out. He didn't cry, didn't talk, just gripped Sam's coat with small scabbed fingers like he was holding on to the last edge of the world. Back at the house, Sam laid him on the old sofa by the stove and stoked the fire until the flames roared high. He brought water, soup, a wool blanket. The boy didn't speak until long after sundown. Sam was sitting nearby, boots off, shirt sleeves rolled. He'd pulled the chair close, but not too close. He didn't ask questions, just waited. Finally, the boy spoke. "My name's Ben," voice like sand and rust. Sam nodded. "I'm Sam." Ben looked around like he was still figuring out if this was real. "Is this your place?" "Yeah, ain't much, but it's mine." A pause, then quieter. "Am I in trouble?" Sam frowned. "For what?" "For being here. For getting away." Sam leaned back in the chair. "You didn't break in. You didn't lie. Someone tied you to a fence like a damn fence post." "That ain't your crime. That's someone else's." Ben didn't answer. He looked into the fire like it might swallow him. In the morning, Ben couldn't walk much, so Sam helped him hobble to the spare room. No questions, no pushing, just hot tea and bandages. Sam said nothing about the round scars on Ben's back, the way he flinched when someone moved too fast, the strange, silent way he ate like the food might vanish if he made too much noise. That night, Ben asked, "Why'd you help me?" Sam lit his pipe, thought for a long moment. "Because someone should have." Another long pause. "Because I remember what it feels like to be left somewhere and told it's your fault." Ben looked at him then. Really looked not like a scared animal, but like a person trying to believe something for the first time. 3 days later, a rider came up the trail. Sam watched from the window. The man was lean, dressed sharp, but with eyes too slick to trust. He dismounted smooth, tied his horse with confidence, and knocked like he owned the place. Sam opened the door slow. "Morning," the man said, tipping his hat. "Name's Otis Mallory. Looking for my nephew. Boy named Ben. Says he ran off. Got himself lost. Poor thing." Sam didn't step aside. "What makes you think he's here?" Otis grinned. "Saw boot tracks near the fence line. Fresh. Figured he'd turn up on someone's land. Kids, a handful. Real burden. You know how it is." "I don't." Otis smiled wider. "You sure he ain't in there? I'm sure you ain't family." The man's eyes changed. Slick turned to cold. "Look, we don't need to make this hard. Just give me the boy and you won't have a problem." Sam let the silence stretch, then said, low, "If you left him tied to my fence like a stray dog, then the problem already arrived." Otis leaned in. "You think you're doing something noble, Cowboy? You think that kid's worth dying for?" Sam didn't blink. "I think if you step 1 foot further, you'll find out just how much he is." Otis held his stare for a beat, then chuckled slow. "You'll regret this." And with that he turned and rode off. Sam closed the door. Inside, Ben stood in the hallway, pale, shaken. Sam knelt down. "You did nothing wrong." Ben's eyes filled, but he blinked the tears back. "He's not my uncle. I know. He sold me. After my mom died, she owed him something. He said I was payment." Sam stood. "Then he'll come back, and next time he won't knock." The night after Otis left, the wind changed. Not just the weather, the air itself heavier. Still, even Boone, Sam's old gelding, pawed the dirt uneasily, and the coyotes that usually howled from the eastern hills stayed quiet. Sam sat on the porch past midnight, rifle laid across his lap, eyes on the road. Ben had finally fallen asleep in the spare room, curled in a nest of blankets like he hadn't had warmth in years. He didn't say much after Otis rode off, but Sam could feel the shift. The boy wasn't scared like before. He was alert, waiting, like he knew what kind of men came back after they smiled and tipped their hats. Sam did too, because men like Otis never let something go, not out of pride, not out of law, but out of ownership. To men like that, people were property. The next morning, Ben helped with chores, not because Sam asked, but because he needed something to do. He hauled water, threw feed, and swept the porch with an old broom, so worn it was more stick than bristle. He didn't speak much, but he was steady, watchful. His hands worked fast, like they were used to being judged for how slow they moved. At midday, he finally asked, "Do you think he'll come back?" Sam didn't lie. "Yes." Ben nodded, then softer. "What'll you do when he does?" Sam met at his eyes. "What I have to." Ben stared at him for a long moment, then went back to shoveling grain. That afternoon, Sam rode out to town. He didn't say why, and Ben didn't ask. He was back by nightfall, hauling a crate under a tarp. Inside were shells, salt blocks, a new padlock, and something smaller, a bundle of letters wrapped in twine, faded, folded, old. He handed them to Ben after supper. "Your mother? She used to write to someone in town. Preacher's wife gave me these, said she hadn't seen her in months." Ben's hand shook as he opened the first one. Sam didn't watch him read. He just added wood to the fire and stared into the orange glow like it held some kind of answer he'd been looking for his whole life. 2 nights later, Sam was sharpening his knife on the porch step when he saw the glow. Firelight far off down the valley road, 3 riders, lanterns swinging, dust rising. Ben stepped out beside him, silent. Sam didn't stop sharpening. "You sure you want to be here for this?" Ben nodded. "I'm done running." Sam studied the boy, then stood, sheathed the blade, and handed Ben a small, worn revolver. "Don't shoot unless you have to, and if you do, don't miss." Ben took it without a word. They came just after midnight. 3 horses, 1 wagon. Otis was at the front, smug as ever. He wore a clean shirt this time, and his spurs shone in the lantern light. But his eyes were colder now. No performance, no lies, just ownership and expectation. Behind him rode 2 men, thick, quiet, with rifles across their backs. The wagon held something covered by canvas. Sam didn't need to guess what. Otis dismounted slowly. "Evening, Hayes." Sam stepped down from the porch. "You're trespassing. Just here for what's mine. He's not yours." Otis sighed, almost disappointed. "You think you're doing something good here, but you're not. You're breaking something that ain't meant to be broken." Sam raised an eyebrow. "Like your nose if you take another step?" Otis smirked. He waved a hand. One of the men yanked the tarp off the wagon. Inside, a boy, no older than Ben, bound, mouth gagged, eyes wide with fear. Sam's stomach turned. Otis pointed. "This is what I deal in. Hayes, flesh, labor. Names don't matter. Faces don't matter. You think you can protect one kid forever? For every one I lose, I find 3 more." Ben stepped onto the porch behind Sam, gun hidden behind his leg. He said clearly, "You killed my mother." Otis looked up at him unbothered. "She broke her contract. That's not killing. That's business." Sam turned, looked at Ben, then back at Otis, and said only one word, "Run!" Otis sneered. "What?" Sam raised his rifle. "Run now, or I bury you where you stand." Otis didn't move until a shot rang out loud, sharp, and close. Not Sam's. Ben had fired. The bullet missed on purpose, struck the ground near Otis's boot. But the message was clear, and it worked. The man behind Otis panicked. "I didn't sign up for this." He dropped his rifle and backed away. The third rider hesitated, confused, until Sam turned his sights toward him. That was enough. Within minutes, the wagon turned. The men retreated. Otis, red-faced and livid, mounted without a word and rode hard into the dark. He didn't yell threats. He didn't promise revenge. He knew the line had been drawn, and he'd lost. When they were gone, Sam looked down at Ben. The boy was shaking, hands still clenched around the revolver. Sam knelt beside him. "You did good." Ben blinked fast, trying not to cry. "I thought I was going to miss." "You didn't." That night, Ben slept near the fire. Sam kept watch, not because he thought Otis would return, but because he knew the kind of man he was. When someone like that loses power, they don't fade. They fester. But Sam wasn't worried because the boy who once whispered, "Don't send me back," was now standing on his own 2 feet, tired, bruised, but unbroken. By the end of the week, Sam knew the town had heard. He felt it in the way the blacksmith didn't greet him, saw it in the way the general store clerk kept glancing behind him while bagging flour. Even the preacher, a decent enough man with soft hands and a firm voice, lowered his eyes when Sam tipped his hat at Sunday service. People were talking, not because Otis had come back. He hadn't, not yet, but because someone like Otis never traveled without notice. He left dust trails and missing names behind, and folks like him had friends in places that wore stars on their chest and carried warrants in their coat pockets. Sam knew all this. He lived long enough to learn what kind of men bought silence and what kind of men let them. Ben stayed mostly on the ranch. He didn't ask to go to town. He worked beside Sam, now quiet, focused, tougher every day. The bruises faded. The haunted stare lightened. But some shadows didn't lift easily, especially the ones carved by shame. One morning, while mending fence posts, he said, "I know they talk about me." Sam didn't look up. "They don't know you, but they think I'm trouble or dirty or lying." Sam hammered a nail in hard. "They think a lot of things. Doesn't make it true. Do you?" That stopped him. Sam turned, met the boy's eyes. "No, but I think you've been hurt bad. And that kind of hurt makes the world smaller if you let it." Ben nodded slowly. "I don't want to stay small." That afternoon, the sheriff came by. He didn't ride fast, didn't ride angry, but he came alone, which meant he came for business, not courtesy. Sam met him at the gate. "Sheriff," he said, voice flat. "Sam," replied the man, tipping his hat. "Mind if I come in? I'd rather you didn't." The sheriff sighed. "This ain't about you. It's about the boy." Sam crossed his arms. "He's done nothing wrong. Never said he did. But I got word from Cheyenne. Some man named Otis Mallory filed a complaint. Says you're harboring a minor against his legal guardianship." Sam snorted. "Otis Mallory shouldn't be legally in charge of a damn fence post." "Maybe so," the sheriff said carefully. "But the law don't always check who's cruel, only who's got paper." Sam stepped closer. "You here to take him?" "No," the sheriff said. "I'm here to tell you that if he stays, it's going to get loud. State agents, judges, maybe men with less patience than me. I'm giving you a warning, Sam, because I remember what you did at Cold Hollow. I know you're not a man who bends easy, but this," he looked toward the house, "this won't end clean." Sam didn't sleep that night. He sat by the stove with a tin of old tobacco and a book he wasn't reading. Outside, the wind picked up, scraping dry branches against the window. Ben came in from his room, rubbing his eyes. "Are they coming?" Sam looked up. "Probably. Will you let them take me?" Silence. Then, "No?" Ben stepped closer, sat cross-legged by the stove. "You don't have to fight for me, you know." Sam's jaw tensed. "Yeah, I do. Why?" Sam leaned forward. "Because someone should have a long time ago. And because you didn't run when you could have. You stood when you were scared. That's what men do. So I'll do the same for you." Ben stared into the fire, then whispered, "I don't remember my mom's voice. Just the look in her eyes before they took her, like she knew I was going to end up alone." Sam's chest tightened. He wanted to say something, anything, but instead he put a hand on the boy's shoulder, and that was enough. 2 days later, the letter arrived, a formal notice, stamped, signed, marked with a seal Sam hadn't seen in years. The state was sending an agent. 3 days. 3 days to prepare. 3 days to decide. Run, hide, lie. Ben sat at the table looking at the folded paper. "If I go with them, you won't get hurt." "That's not how this works," Sam said. "You go. You disappear. Maybe not today, but you will. That's what men like Otis count on. No one watching after you're gone. Then what do we do?" Sam exhaled. "We show them something they can't ignore." On the morning of the 3rd day, Sam and Ben rode into town. They didn't speak much. Ben wore clean clothes. Sam wore his war coat, the one with faded brass buttons and the Medal of Honor tucked into the inside pocket. They went to the sheriff's office first, then the church, then the general store, then the mayor's house. At every stop, Sam said the same thing. The boy's staying. If you got a spine, you'll help me make sure he can. Some said nothing. Some walked away. But some, a few, nodded. And that was enough. The state agent arrived that evening. Suit, badge. A smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sam met him in front of the house. Ben stood behind him. The sheriff was there too, arms crossed, silent. "I'm here for the boy," the agent said, "under legal order." Sam handed him a bundle, letters, signed testimonies, statements from townsfolk, and at the top, a letter from the local judge declaring the guardianship claim under review due to criminal suspicion. The agent flipped through it, jaw tightening. "You really want to make this hard, don't you?" Sam smiled, dry as dust. "It's only hard if you think justice is trouble." The agent hesitated, then finally turned to leave. "This isn't over." Sam tipped his hat. "That's what the war said, too." That night, Ben sat on the porch, legs swinging off the edge. He looked up at the stars, endless and sharp. "Is it over?" Sam sat beside him. "No, but it's quiet." Ben leaned his head against Sam's arm. "Can I stay?" Sam didn't answer with words. He just placed a hand on the boy's back. And for the first time since he found Ben at the fence, the boy smiled. Autumn came hard to the Wyoming Valley. The grass turned gold, the air crisped, and the wind began to whisper through the pine like a story trying to be remembered. The ranch held quiet. The fences stood strong, and for the first time in years, Sam Hayes didn't feel like he was just waiting for something to break. Ben was different now. He'd grown into his voice, not loud, but steady. He fixed things without being asked, learned the land which gates stuck, where the rattlers curled in warm weather, how to whistle Boone back from pasture. He wasn't just recovering anymore, he was becoming. One morning while mending the west fence, Ben said, "You think I could brand a calf this spring?" Sam, without looking up, nodded. "You've earned it." Ben grinned like the sun had just come up for him and no one else. But peace in a place like this never stayed forever. It came with boot tracks in the dirt, a rider too quiet, and a silence so deep it made the birds leave the trees. It came one afternoon just before dusk. Boone whinnied loud. The goats scattered from the lower field, and Sam from the porch spotted the shape of a man walking up the trail. No horse, no dust, no greetings. It was Otis, but not like before. He looked smaller, paler. His shirt was cleaner than his boots, and his eyes, they were different. Not angry, worse, desperate. Sam didn't reach for his rifle, not yet. He let Otis walk the long road in silence, past the pasture, through the gate, and up the porch steps. Otis looked around. "He here." Sam leaned against the doorframe. "You here for another lie or a last one?" Otis didn't smile. "I ain't got time for speeches. I came to make you a deal." Sam raised an eyebrow. Otis reached into his coat slowly and pulled out a small rolled envelope. "There's a bounty coming. Not just on me, on anyone who helped the boy. State's cracking down on names. I'm on a list. So are you." "So we hide together," Sam said dryly. "No, I came to trade." He unrolled the envelope. Inside documents, seals, names, papers that matched guardianship orders, and a confession signed. Otis Mallory. Full acknowledgment of trafficking, sale of minors, perjury. Sam didn't move. Otis stepped closer. "Give me a horse. Let me ride north. I give you this. No more agents. No more men with silver stars knocking at your door. Ben stays. You stay." Sam stared at him for a long moment. "You think you get to walk away?" Otis nodded once, tired. "I already lost everything. Only thing I've got left is going behind them." The door creaked open. Ben stood there, taller now, still thin but upright, eyes clear. He looked Otis dead in the face. "You killed my mother." Otis didn't deny it. He looked at the boy, not with regret, not even apology, just emptiness. "I killed a lot of things, kid. You're the only one who came back." Sam turned. "You want justice, Ben?" Ben's hands were clenched. His jaw was locked. But after a long moment he said, "No, I want him gone." Sam nodded. Then to Otis, "You'll ride south, not north. There's a station 2 towns over. Sheriff knows to expect you. You hand those papers in. If you don't," he stepped closer, "I will come find you, and I won't be talking." Otis nodded, handed over the envelope, mounted the old mule Sam gave him, and left, slow, hunched, looking more like a shadow than a man. They never saw him again. Weeks passed. Sam filed the papers, the sheriff delivered them, state charges followed, quiet ones, the kind made by men who preferred not to be publicly embarrassed. But Otis's ring crumbled. More names were freed, some found, some not. But Ben stayed. He branded his first calf that spring, got kicked in the thigh, and laughed harder than Sam had seen all year. By summer, he was waking before sunrise, laying fence with his own gloves, and telling jokes to the wind. One night, as they watched a storm roll in from the far ridge, Ben asked, "Did you ever think you'd be a father?" Sam took a long pull from his coffee. "Not like this, not this late." Ben nodded. "But you don't regret it." Sam looked over at him. "Ben, you saved me, not the other way around." "How?" "You made me stop surviving and start living again." Ben didn't answer, but he sat a little taller after that. The final repair on the north fence came a year later, the same fence where Sam had found him. They worked side by side, no words needed, just the sound of hammers, the creak of boards, and the rustle of wind across land that finally felt like home again. And when they finished, Ben carved something into the last post. Sam didn't see what until later. Just 4 letters burned in with the end of a hot nail.